Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No. That was good.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Tyde podcast. This is season 2, episode 7.5.
Mm-hmm.
Back in Colorado. Steve is in California right now.
Yo. Enjoying my delicious cigar.
And yeah. So we were actually just both in California last weekend in San Diego.
Yes.
We had some fun down there.
No,
Did a couple of cool things.
Yeah, it was fun. For those watching, Scientist Sam within the GDC community lives in San Diego. I'm in Orange County. We stayed local to him in the North Park district, and he took us around to a bunch of local breweries, which are really good. He took me to go to Belching Beaver, and they're my favorite brewery, and actually introduced me to my now new favorite beer, Fall of Troy. So good. Went to a couple delicious eateries, did some jujitsu, and we were pretty effed up the entire weekend.
Yeah, so much so that we attempted to do an episode while we were in San Diego, and it did not go well. Since this is live, and a few of you guys might actually be watching this, some of you may have seen that episode.
I don't even remember what it just all dissolved.
It lasted on YouTube for pretty much it being uploaded, and then I got rid of it immediately because I did not want that out there. It was kind of just a mess. So we tanked that episode pretty quickly. And
we're all sober now.
Go ahead.
We're all pretty sober now, so we are of sound body and mind.
We're back to real life now. We're back to our jobs.
Yes.
So we're gonna kind of redo this episode. That's why we're calling it 7.5. For those of you guys that did see that last episode, what we were talking about was Antarctica. So we're gonna jump back on that again
briefly.
Today. We got a lot of stuff to talk about with it. There's a lot of crazy shit with Antarctica. So
here's, I don't even remember what I said about Antarctica last week, but Antarctica is clearly a continent. It's on the southernmost region of the planet. A lot of flat earthers don't believe in the continent itself. They actually believe that it is a 300-foot ice wall that surrounds the perimeter of the disk that would be the flat Earth. Of course, that's a bunch of bullshit. They believe
I've heard 150.
150 foot. Okay. And for some reason, no boats, planes, or satellites have ever seen this ice wall for reasons. Apparently, the governments are really they have strict security protocols in place for anybody who comes close to the 150-foot ice wall that surrounds the world, essentially, which we all know is bullshit. So, and apparently, I've even heard people say that the ice wall is guarded by prisoners. If that isn't Game of Thronesy enough, I don't know what this is. Just damn crows.
Yeah, right. They're watch hens.
So what I'm curious about is what's on if the Earth is flat, what's on the bottom? Is it just like big jagged rocks, or is it just like a quarter where it's just perfectly flat? I don't get that part. Like, has any flat earther ever explained how deep the crust goes? Like, I don't understand. We can use.
Yeah, I mean,
there's
I don't know.
Ways you can prove that the Earth is flat by not actually physically seeing the curvature itself.
Right.
But go ahead.
Yeah. So just been talking about right now, a lot of flat Earth theories involve Antarctica, and that's actually how we came across the topic that we wanted to talk about today. We've mentioned earlier on our social media that we were trying to get a very prominent flat Earth guy to join us for an episode, so we could actually talk about flat Earth. And
Right.
in the prep for that episode, which we hope can still happen, we're still trying to get him on. If any of you guys want to reach out and try and convince him to come and join us, we would really appreciate that, because we would really love to get this episode done. But
I'm working on that. So here's the thing. I'm not advocating flat Earth. I don't think Adrian's advocating flat Earth. We just want to talk the controversy. This is no longer like a debate type platform. I'm okay with that.
We want to have a conversation about it. Like, I want to know why they believe what they believe, like how they came to believe that, what their life was like growing up, like at what point did they start to think this, like did they come across this while they were in school, or was it something that they came across later as an adult? Were they raised religious? Like, how does this play into their religion? Stuff like that. And I basically just want to learn from someone that believes this, like, what it's all about, as opposed to just, watching videos or reading like Wikipedia articles. Like, there's got to be something that they believe, and even if it's not, something that we buy into ourselves, like, I would still like to, give them the floor and talk to them about it.
Right. I will say this, having dealt with some pretty batshit crazy people in this community, and now that we're kind of sailing away from the community that I hail from, there are some fucking weirdos, Adrian. There's a lot of weirdos in the internet.
Right.
I talked to many weirdos who I remember with my original show, the Austin Cruise Show. I remember saying at one point that, hey, we haven't had any crazies yet. Like, our show is going really well. We haven't had any crazies. The following week, we got our first crazy, and oh boy, did he not disappoint. Our first legitimate batshit crazy, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of it was just for shits and giggles. He was trolling us, but this guy was so monumentally batshit crazy that it inspired me to actually impersonate him, and I can actually do a really good impersonation of this particular individual. And at one point during some sort of hangout or conversation that we were having as a group, we got him in the hangout, and then I came in the hangout as him, and it was very meta. It was very surreal to just have the two of us talking to each other as this one individual. Anyway, so trying to. I mean, we can still have fun with it, but would really like to sit and talk to somebody who believes in something that is bad shit, and just find out where they're coming from. The Netflix show. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. So like I was saying, in prepping for that episode, I've been doing a lot of research on the flat Earth stuff, and like I was mentioning earlier, a lot of it points to Antarctica, and with that, I ended up, kind of divulging from the subject and starting to look at Antarctica more, and coming across all this weird stuff that's happened there, and like all these weird conspiracy theories about what goes on there, like currently, and what's gone on there in the past. And there's a lot of interesting stuff there, and I think that's what we're going to talk about today. And I think that there's a possibility that this episode is going to branch out into several other episodes, because there's quite a few things here that we could just do entire episodes on.
Right.
So I'm really excited about this one.
So this one individual that I just mentioned, we did actually discuss. I'm sure it was flat Earth, but it was actually, I think it was flat Earth. As he was mentioning Antarctica, and he said that nobody's ever been to Antarctica. It's like, well, dude, there's like research bases there.
Right.
people are in Antarctica. Oh, you can't find a boat or flights in it. Why don't people ever fly or ferry people to Antarctica? And of course, a simple Google search will bring up
Yeah,
a multitude of agencies that do exactly that.
you could book a cruise right now to Antarctica.
Right.
And like
So,
like I've mentioned before, I almost took a job in Antarctica a couple years back.
yeah, good thing you did.
Would have been
It,
for several months at a time. But part of the reason I wanted to go was just because I wanted to see what it would have been like
it's fucking cold and
to be
miserable,
there.
dude. What are you gonna do in Antarctica?
Right.
There's nothing to do there.
A lot of
What do
sit-ups
you
and
do?
push-ups.
Yeah, you can
Shadow
do that in
box.
prison.
Yeah, right.
Raise an army of penguins if you want.
Yeah.
So it's funny how these people who believe in these things, they throw out these really just asinine assertions that a simple Google search will just prove them wrong.
Yeah.
Mind you, and I think it was flying out of like Cape Horn or something, just like the southern tip, like the southernmost tip of what is that? South America? That's Cape Horn, right? Cape Horn?
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm having flashbacks here to seventh grade geography. So,
Geography. Yeah.
Mr. Moodhart. So it's really interesting with the assertions that they make that are easily refuted by just a simple Google search. I think I don't know. It's just it's weird to me how people can hold such extreme views on the world, which are just so demonstrably false, just with basic observation. You don't need to go to scientists and listen to them. You can do a lot of this crap yourself to figure it out yourself.
Right.
So anyway, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say the assertion that like nobody's ever been to Antarctica is quite laughable, considering there are several countries that are there right now. Like you said, with multiple bases where they're doing scientific research on climate change,
they have
animals, stuff like that. Yeah.
Actually, it's funny. I remember reading this article years and years ago that if you're in Antarctica and if you want to order a pizza, it takes like 4 or 5 hours to get the pizza delivered. Like there's one pizza place that actually delivers to Antarctica. When they, of course, they have like special heating instruction. I just thought that was cool, but that is like somebody. If anybody ever watches this, just look that up. There is, or at least there was at one point, a pizza delivery service to Antarctica.
That's wild.
Those crows got tired of eating White Walker meat or something. I don't know.
Yeah, right.
So, what have you? So, what have you discovered about Antarctica in your research? What have you been reading?
So, a lot of stuff. Obviously, for any of the history buffs out there, a lot of what I came across involved the Nazis.
Of course, it's always the Nazis.
Yeah, it's always the Nazis, right? So, let's just dive right into it. Let's jump back in history a little bit to shortly after World War One. The Germans had lost the war. There were several secret societies popping up throughout Germany. One of them, probably one of the more famous German secret societies, which obviously means that it wasn't so secret, was called the Thule Society. So these are the guys that you typically will see in like pop culture, like movies, video games, TV shows, anything like that. Whenever they're typically portraying one of the German secret societies, it's usually the Thule Society. They've been in games, movies, all that shit.
Is this Indiana Jones right here? style?
Say it again.
Is this Indiana Jones style of Nazi right here?
Yeah, kind of. So they were very into the occult, like Hellboy, the Hellboy
Okay.
movies.
Okay.
Also think Wolfenstein.
Okay.
So like these guys. So they were heavily into the occult. They wanted to start a space program essentially after World War One.
Okay.
There was a woman named Maria Orsic. She was a psychic medium.
Okay.
She was a member of the Thule Society and also a member of the Vril Society. So the Vril Society, again, another German secret society. There, it was almost like a little subgroup of the Thule Society. So the deal with them was that they were very into aliens.
Okay.
The Vril.
Which aliens are we talking here?
Multiple different kinds.
Okay.
So what Maria Orsic did was she was a medium. She was able to allegedly contact aliens through her like psychic connection. What she would do would be receive messages from them and like free write like messages that she was getting.
Not one of those. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So the messages that she was getting, she was writing them out, and they would be in Sumerian. Actually, like what she was writing down was a Sumerian,
Really?
which leads me to believe that if she was indeed contacting aliens, and they were talking to her in Sumerian, what's the group of aliens that is typically associated with the Sumerians?
The
Anunnaki.
Yep.
Yep. So, allegedly, these were the aliens that she was talking to.
Interesting.
So she was getting these messages from these guys, writing them out in Sumerian. They would translate it from Sumerian to German, and what they realized what it was very detailed instructions on how to build spacecraft like saucers. Which is pretty wild, but they actually started attempting to build these, and the first one that they built.
I have seen like Nazi aircraft. You have the big flying V, and I've seen like the more conventional UFO, the saucer.
Oh yeah,
type of craft, and even on the U.S. side,
it's undisputable that they legitimately actually built some of these things. Like,
right.
I mean, we can't prove that she was talking to aliens, but we can prove that the Nazis definitively did build several of these crafts. Mm-hmm. So they actually built one of these guys. Well, they started with one of them, and then allegedly they built several. I believe the first test flight was in like the mid-30s, but mm-hmm. What these things were essentially like anti-gravity, like saucers.
Did they actually develop anti-gravity?
So allegedly, yes. Allegedly, not only were they like anti-gravity saucers, but they were also interdimensional, like time traveling machines. It's pretty wild shit, but
maybe they should have skipped ahead about 20 years to find out what would have happened. Though. Yes.
Right.
I mean,
so
just saying.
What Maria Orsic transcribed, this guy named Winfried Schumann actually helped build. He was like a scientist in Germany that specialized in like high energy plasma physics, and essentially what they did with these blueprints is they built these saucers, and they were able to rotate plasma, and I guess that's how they were getting the space-time effect. It was actually bending space-time by rotating plasma, and so plasma rotates. You can get a rotation of plasma when you have it in like a high vacuum like area where it's
Is it like a
high
star
temperature.
almost?
I think so.
It sounds
So
like they're harnessing the power of a star.
yeah, that would actually probably be a decent way to describe it.
No,
So it's in a
so I'm
vacuum. It's
wondering.
rotating.
So I'm wondering if what the Nazis allegedly developed, if that is in any way, shape, or form similar to what Bob Lazar describes with the research he did in Area 51 with the element. What is it? One something. What is that?
151, I think it was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I wonder
So
if it's similar, or if maybe it's like two different processes to achieve similar.
could be, definitely could be. So the interesting thing is, and kind of like you mentioned, why didn't they use this to travel forward in time or whatever to to see what was going to happen? The interesting thing with the Thule Society is that allegedly they didn't give the Nazis everything that they had. It was essentially like a subgroup, right?
Okay.
So it was people within the Nazi Party. And actually, at one point, before he rose to power, they actually backed Hitler. They gave him money. They gave him police and military protection. Um, he rose to power. He eventually banned secret societies. So they kind of had to go. I guess you could say underground, or more so underground than they already were. But what Maria Orsic actually did was to kind of legitimize the Vril Society.
Mm-hmm.
She renamed them into she gave them almost like a corporate name. But what name was actually Vril Propulsion Workshops, which is kind of funny, since
Interesting.
it kind of ties into the whole flying saucer thing,
Right. Right.
with propulsion and everything. But
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that people were saying was that they didn't quite give the Nazis everything. They almost like went off on their own and developed a lot of this stuff like on their own.
So they almost became a real
So
world version of Hydra.
yeah, exactly. That's yeah, no,
Hail Hydra.
that's a great point. Um, so again with the Vrills, one of the funny things that I found out about them was I guess the women in the society actually grew their hair out really long, which was quite uncommon for the time. I guess a
Really?
lot of women back then like actually wore their hair pretty short, like above the shoulders, like that bob cut or whatever.
Yeah, yeah.
But so they grew their hair out really long because they believed that uh, the longer your hair was, it gave you almost like like psychic like powers,
Hmm.
and it would actually help you. It would actually act like as an antenna to help you make contact with the aliens. And so when I read that, the only thing I could think of was fucking Avatar.
Having hair sex
um,
with monsters.
right. So, and what's actually kind of funny about that, and we'll touch on this a little bit later, but allegedly in Antarctica, when Admiral Richard Byrd, the U.S. explorer, went over there, when he allegedly went into the Hollow Earth, he met people with blue skin. But we'll get to that a little bit later. That's quite a little bit further into the future than what we're discussing right now. So, anyways,
Right.
back to the Vril. So they actually at one point ended up disappearing, and nobody really knows what happened to them. They kind of just vanished. One of the last things that I could find about them was Maria Orsic actually sent out a letter to all the members. And it was in German, but when you translate it, basically what it said was no one is staying here. And one of the theories out there was that all the members of the Vril Society figured out where the home planet of the aliens were, and were able to get in their newly built spaceships and leave the Earth. Maybe that happened. Maybe it didn't. I don't know.
I mean, they could have just drank the
I mean,
Kool-Aid and all died.
Yeah.
That could have happened too. That's
There could be
interesting.
Nazis in space right now. Who knows?
There could be space Nazis right now, and maybe that's the reason why Trump is so eager to create the Space Force, because he wants to go and fight space Nazis.
Right.
Even though if there were space Mexicans, I'm sure there would be more of a precedence for it. Maybe I don't know.
Yeah, I'm sure he was pissed in Rogue One with Juan Solo.
Juan Solo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was very Juan Solo, wasn't he?
Yeah.
So what else have I heard about Antarctica? It's cold, it's melting, and penguins. And there's one mailbox there.
A lot of penguins.
That's about it.
Yeah, but there's a whole lot more Nazi stuff. So
always with the Nazis. Always with the
Nazis.
Right?
Yeah. And I feel like like I mentioned, we're going to have a lot of jumping off points where we could do whole other episodes, and I think that one that we're definitely going to have to tackle at one point is going to be the Nazis and all the occult shit that they're into, because there's a lot there. There's a lot to unpack.
There is.
A lot we can talk about.
Hitler trying to find the Holy Grail and the Lance of Longinus and all that. Yeah, it's interesting.
All sorts of shit, yeah. So this little story that I'm going to get into was super interesting, and I think that it almost plays out like a fucking Quentin Tarantino movie, and I hope that, like, no joke, and I hope that at some point somebody does make this into a movie, because I didn't really know a whole lot about this. I mean, I'm sure we learned a little bit about it in history in high school, but not to this extent. And I'm almost tempted to write a script on this myself, just because of how fucking crazy and how wild and how many twists and turns happen in this story. So, again, the Thule, the Vril, Maria Orsic was the woman that was running the Vril. There was another guy who was a very prominent member of the Nazi Party, and any historians out there are definitely going to recognize his name, Rudolf Hess. He was basically the number two. So he was Hitler's right-hand man. Mm-hmm. He was very close to Adolf Hitler. They kind of came up together in the party. There's rumors out there still to this day that there may have actually been a relationship between the two of them. Like they were that close that some people suspected. He actually wrote some of Mein Kampf, and allegedly he's actually the one that came up with that name. Like, and he convinced Hitler to name it that, because I guess Hitler wanted to name it something else, like 4 years of struggle and all this other shit. Like, it was like a really long title that it didn't flow quite as well as Mein Kampf. Yeah, exactly. So he was, outer space. he was very close to Hitler. They were essentially best friends. He actually tried to rein Hitler in multiple times. He didn't really want to go to war. There was actually several prominent Nazis basically the number 2 and 3 guys in the Nazi Party, Rudolf Hess and Hermann Goering. Neither one of them really wanted the war. And it was kind of Hitler's thing. Rudolf Hess was actually a very I guess he was very conflicted about a lot of things. He was a student, and his professor in college was actually married to a half Jewish woman. So that kind of played into a lot of the regrets that he was having that were going on at the time when Hitler started persecuting the Jewish people, like in Europe. He was actually able to get protection for his professor and his family, but obviously not for everyone else.
Millions of other people who were systematically destroyed. Yeah. Actually,
so there came a point.
Hold on, really quick. Just a really quick side note for later. We should, hold on. At some point down the line, we should find somebody who believes that the Holocaust was fake. I think that'd be an interesting show.
that would certainly make for an interesting episode.
I'm pretty sure that if we find a flat earther, they might also think that too. So we might be able to catch 2 birds with 1 stone there. But anyways, go ahead.
Right. So is going on at the moment. Germany, Hitler is about to start
invade Poland,
sending troops into Russia. So he's about to open this up into a 2-front war, which obviously ultimately became.
He should have packed some jackets, some warm clothes there, buddy. Warm clothes.
Yeah. So Rudolf Hess and Hermann Goering were both very much against this. Hess did not want to go into Russia. Goering was very strategic and thought that going into Russia was a huge mistake, especially since it looked like the Americans were about to start getting involved, and he didn't want to add that and be fighting this multiple front war. Thought it would be a poor strategy. So allegedly the 2 of them came up with this plan where they were going to start negotiating secretly with England. They were going to negotiate England backing out of the war. And what's interesting about that, and it's something that I've heard before, is that there are tons of connections between the British Royal Crown and Germany that go back like quite a bit. I think one of the princes or one of the kings at some point was of German descent. So their bloodline, the royal family's bloodline, is actually German. So Rudolf Hess jumps in a plane. He flies out of Germany and heads towards Great Britain.
All right.
He ends up, and this all actually happened. He ends up, so he's flying to Great Britain with the intention of negotiating with the British for the British exit out of the war. He flies into Scotland, and he was having some troubles. I think he missed like a navigation beacon, and ends up having to eject out of his plane. Lands in Scotland, gets picked up by some soldiers, and gets taken as a prisoner.
So really quick,
what his intentions?
Hold on, really quick.
Yeah.
So one of my long-time viewers here, he wanted to make note that 4.5 years struggle against lies, cowardice, and stupidity was the OG title for Mein Kampf.
Yes. Yes.
That doesn't quite roll off the tongue.
Not quite as well.
No, not really.
So Hess leaves Germany with the intention of negotiating with the essentially the British deep state, members of the royal family. He ends up crash landing Scotland. He gets picked up by the wrong people because he was supposed to meet some people there that were going to negotiate his like safe passage, take him to the people that he was going to actually talk with and negotiate the removal of England from the war. And then at that point, they could take on Russia on their own and probably win that battle. So he gets arrested, taken prisoner. He's held in like a Tower of London for a little bit. Then he ends up getting taken to a like mansion, like prison, I think, still in Scotland.
Okay.
What I read about what was supposed to happen is he was going to negotiate England pulling out. What Germany was offering was the removal of Hitler. Mm-hmm. What England had to do, in addition to pulling out of the war, was to remove Winston Churchill. So essentially, Germany and England were offering up their leaders. England would kill Churchill, Germany would kill Hitler, and England would essentially tip their hat to Germany and go on their merry way.
Right.
Reason for that is England would have loved to have gotten out of that war, obviously. They didn't want to keep fighting that. You know, they were losing tons of people. Their cities were getting bombed all the fucking time. That's where that whole keep calm and carry on shit comes from.
Yeah.
From like the fucking like bombing of London.
Right.
So
keep calm and carry on.
Yeah. England knew that Churchill would not go for this and exit the fight. So they would have had to have removed him. And on that side, on England's side, they would not negotiate with Hitler. So both sides kind of knew that if they were going to make this happen, they would have to sacrifice their leaders, and they were both okay with that.
Right.
Now, where Hermann Goering comes into play, Hitler's number 3 guy, or the number 3 guy in the Nazi Party, is he was kind of like the guy in charge of the military. Allegedly, how Hess got out of Germany, because I mean, think about it. Like, Germany's in the middle of this war. A guy steals a plane, flies out of Germany through German airspace, and gets out just fine.
Right.
Like, how does that happen? So the theory is that him and Goering like collaborated on this because, like I said earlier, Goering did not want to go into Russia at this point. Thought it was a bad idea.
And
thought Hitler was slipping. Yeah, exactly. So he was right about that.
You don't fight Russians that in their own turf without a fucking jacket.
Right.
Come on.
Right. So what they think happened is because Hess actually had this was maps of where the anti-aircraft like weaponry was. So Hess knew precisely what route he would have to take to avoid all that stuff. Also, what happened is Goering actually tried to mobilize mobilize his aircraft to go out. Went out and told the generals, like, hey, we got to send these jets out here. Hess stole a plane and he flew off. Now, what's wrong with that is he waited until Hess was way out there to tell people about it.
Mm-hmm.
To the point where there was no way that they were going to be able to catch him.
Right.
So they think that he just did that to, cover his own tracks, because the very next day when the news came out that Hess had, abandoned ship and taken off, and Goering was questioned about it, he claimed to have not known anything about it. And this being the first time he'd heard about it, despite having tried to mobilize troops to go after him.
Right.
So that was so it kind of seems like he was just trying to cover his own ass, and he had actually worked with Hess, because Goering was actually the only person that could have provided him this information as to where all the anti-aircraft artillery was.
Really? I mean, it makes sense.
Yeah. So I could definitely see that as being a thing. So,
now, what are your thoughts
go ahead.
about Hitler actually committing suicide in the bunker, or because there's whispers that he actually escaped, and I think he fled to, I think it was Argentina, where he lived out his days.
Yeah.
We heard of that one?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. There's tons of theories out there. And we could touch on that a little bit later. There's a few things where we can get into that.
There's a lot of interesting stuff that happened in World War II. It's one of my favorite topics in history. It was always World War II. A little bit of World War I, but that wasn't as interesting as World War II.
Yeah, but World War II is definitely where things got way more dicey.
Little out of hand.
They raised the stakes a little bit.
Yeah.
So
yes, they did.
So Hess is at this point. He's in Great Britain. He's a prisoner. He's he's held at this giant mansion prison, which, I mean, not too bad.
I mean, it could be worse.
He's yeah, right.
Could be detained in Guantanamo. Could be getting waterboarded for all we know.
Yeah, that's our game. So the World War II ends. The good guys win.
That's good.
Several Nazis are prosecuted in the Nuremberg trials. Rudolf Hess is prosecuted during that. One of the things where this gets a little weirder is there is a theory that the Hess that is at Nuremberg on trial is not the real Rudolf Hess. They think that
three children in a trench coat?
They think at some point it would have had to have happened while he was in Great Britain. He was switched with a body double.
Okay.
Where this gets a little interesting is, as he's on trial with several other prominent Nazis, the ones that we didn't hire and bring over to our side.
Right.
So he's put on trial. There are other Nazis that say that they don't recognize him, despite him being the number two, the deputy Führer. They're saying that they don't recognize him. I think one of the guys was actually looking at him and laughing, while they were on trial. It's such an obvious fake.
Just he's got one of those big fake mustaches.
Right.
Like the big glasses.
Big nose and fake mustache and all that shit.
Right. Like,
So
clearly, you're three midgets in an overcoat. I mean, come on.
like a broom hand. Cotton candy all over his face.
Can you buy me
One of
some
those like
beer?
one of those fake beards like from the Little Rascals.
Yeah. Anyways.
But yeah, anyway, so he's convicted. He gets a life sentence. At one point, he tries to give one of his nurses while he's in prison. He gives one of his nurses a note to smuggle out to send to his family. And what's interesting about this note, because the nurse actually opened before giving it to the family, is he complained about not being allowed to smoke while he was in prison.
Mm-hmm.
What's interesting about that is he was never a smoker. Like
Really?
very much like Hitler, he was very anti-smoking. So that's one of the things that leads people to believe that, hey, this may not have been the real guy. Another thing with that, he also was not allowed to have pictures taken of him while he was there. So there were no pictures taken of him while during his entire prison sentence. He also would not allow family to visit him until 1969. So what's that, like 15 years after
Long time.
World War II ended? Yeah.
Right.
And obviously that is quite a bit of time, but when his family finally did see him, he looked quite different. His voice was completely different. I think his voice was actually higher than it was before, which doesn't quite make sense for...
well, I mean, if you factor in all the prison sex, I'm sure that your voice is going to get a little squeakier.
However, this was just a prison for Nazis. It was just all Nazis that were held there.
Yeah, well, I mean, if you're a bunch of Nazi dudes in the prison, a Nazi dude, like any other dude, is going to have some needs that need to be satisfied at some point, especially after about 15 years worth of being surrounded by a bunch of other sexy Aryan, blonde hair, blue eyes. Like, so you see where I'm going here?
Yeah, right. So again, going back to the prison, in 1966, I believe it was, the last prisoner was released. So they actually released a couple of the other Nazis that they were holding there as part of like a humanitarian thing, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the other guys that were serving life sentences, they released. They did not release Hess. So from 1966, I think it was, until he died in 1987, he was the only prisoner in this entire prison. So they were still maintaining this prison exclusively for this guy. He was the only guy in there for one dude.
Wow.
Now, think about this. So this prison was run by the Americans, the British, the French, and the Russians. Now, consider this time period, the 60s to the late 80s, right in the middle of the Cold War.
The Cold War, yeah.
So this guy was so important that
he united all these countries, like U.S. and Russia.
Exactly. The U.S. and Russia were putting aside their differences to keep this guy in prison. Pretty wild.
That's pretty wild. So what you're saying is that they went through all this trouble to keep this guy detained that they knew wasn't the real guy?
Well, the idea is that they couldn't let him out because he had some kind of secret.
He knew all the secrets.
He knew information that essentially they couldn't afford to have get out there.
Interesting.
So he eventually died at the age of 93. His death was also extremely weird.
Mm-hmm.
So the official narrative is that he died by suicide as he was 93 in prison.
Right.
He allegedly hanged himself.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what makes this weird is he hanged himself with a fucking cord from a lamp. Allegedly, what he did is he ran the cord up through his window to the outside, wrapped the cord around his neck, slid off of his bench that was there, and hanged himself.
What kind of phone cord are we talking? Are we talking about like little twirly ones that always used to get fucked up? I hated those.
I mean, it would have been something that would have been available in like the mid to late 80s, probably in Europe somewhere.
Curly ones. Yep.
So, where the issue with this is, he had a nurse that took care of him for, I think, at least 5 or 6 years in that prison. And when he was told that what had happened, he immediately suspected foul play. He didn't buy into him hanging himself.
Mm-hmm.
Reason for that is, again, he was 93 years old at the time.
Right.
He couldn't walk without the assistance of canes or people essentially holding him up. His arthritis was so bad that he could not lift his arms above his shoulders. Like, he couldn't lift his hands above his shoulders.
Okay.
And his arthritis was so bad that he couldn't hold on to spoons or knives. Like, he had to have help, like, feeding himself.
Just functioning, yeah, right?
Yeah, essentially. I mean, the dude's 93 years old.
Yeah.
So, I mean, if you consider all that, like, yeah, it kind of seems a little fishy that this dude is able to take a fucking cord, run it through a window, which is going to be up high, be able to tie a noose and wrap it around his own throat. Like, if he can't even hold a fucking spoon or can't lift his arms above his head, which he would have had to have done to get the cord out the window. I mean, sure, it's possible he was able to throw it out the window or whatever, but still, I do see where there could be some issues with people believing like that he's able to tie a noose or wrap this around or even fucking put any of that shit together.
Right.
So another thing with that, again, with the nurse, I guess earlier that day, he noticed that there were 2 new American guards in the prison. Again, he had been there for about 6 years at the time, so he knew everybody. That the day that Hess died, there were 2 new American guards there wearing, it was kind of funny, wearing ill-fitting uniforms. So uniforms that looked like they did not belong to them because they didn't fit correctly. They were loose, baggy, or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is the one that actually discovered Hess, and they got him down or whatever. They tried to resuscitate him. More so, the nurse was the one that was trying to resuscitate him. He told them to go get the oxygen tank. They came back with the oxygen tank. It had been tampered with. It was completely out of oxygen.
Oh.
And the nurse said that can't be. I checked those this morning and they were fine. So he thinks that
some sort of foul play.
Between this guy going to get it and it coming back, they had, messed with it so that there wouldn't be any oxygen in it. So he then asks these soldiers to help him perform CPR. The American starts doing the chest compressions and apparently does this so roughly that he breaks several of Hess's ribs.
Jeez.
And then he eventually either dies there or he dies at the hospital when they get when they get him to the hospital in England or whatever.
So I'm curious, why would they wait till he's 93 to get rid of this guy? Seems like something they would have done years and years and years prior to him living out to the ripe old age of 93.
Right. So it could be that they were keeping him alive for a reason.
Information
that that he knew something because going back a little bit, when he was first taken prisoner, and he was actually still kind of negotiating with the British as he was in prison. One of the things that they talked about was Antarctica.
Yeah.
To come full circle, so that we're not just randomly talking about Nazis.
Right.
Antarctica was still involved in this.
Gotta bring it back home, baby. Bring it home.
Right. In the late 30s, I believe it was 38 and 39, the Nazis did, or I guess the Germans did their first expedition to Antarctica. They were researching the area. They were mapping stuff out. One of the places that they went to was a place that Norway had originally claimed for their own. Now Germany ends up claiming it after Norway, and they're kind of having a little bit of a dispute about it.
Mm-hmm.
Eventually, the war happens. Germany invades Norway, and it's no longer a point of contention.
Right.
Germany just kind of takes it. Now, when England or when Hess is, negotiating with the British, one of the things they talk about is Norway. Now, people believe that when they're referencing Norway, what they're really talking about is Antarctica, because they ask, well, what about Norway? And Hess at this time, believing that if this negotiation goes through, he goes back, gets rid of Hitler, he's the new Führer. He says essentially, I'm open to talk about it. We can discuss. We can negotiate Antarctica. So whatever they found there, whatever the Nazis found in Antarctica, there are a few people that would have known the true story of what they had. Likely Maria Orsic would have been one of them, because she was very high up in the Thule and Rail Society. Rudolf Hess, Hitler, obviously, and Hermann Goering probably would have been at the top of that list of people that would have known exactly what it was that they had discovered there. I'm sure some people knew the details, especially if they were in fact building bases. But if they found technology, any of that kind of shit, any ancient structures or whatever, they may have kept that close to the chest. These guys would have known about it. So it's possible that is one of the reasons they kept him alive so long, because he had knowledge of this kind of stuff.
Mm.
So I mean, that could be why. It could also be that he was obviously aware of not being the real Rudolf Hess. So that could be another reason that they kept him there for so long.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
I wonder why, if it wasn't the real
story.
Rudolf Hess, why they would keep him for so long, when they could have easily just secretly released the guy. or just killed.
So yeah, right. So I don't know that I buy too much into the switching of him or
Right.
using a body double or whatever, just because I couldn't find uh, a decent enough motive for them to have done that, or like
Yeah.
what the benefit could have been.
Right.
Like why the British would have wanted to do that, unless they gave him a new identity and kept the real Rudolf Hess for their own, because he was a scientist, so he absolutely could have helped them out that way. And we know that's definitely something that the Americans and the Russians both did. They basically divided the Nazis amongst themselves and then arrested the rest of them, the ones
Right.
that they didn't kill.
Right.
So that's kind of the end of of Hess's story. There is quite a bit more
Of
about
course.
what the Nazis allegedly found. So there, the base that they allegedly had up there was called Base 211. And it was New Swabia, I believe, is what they called the area.
Okay.
One of the coolest things that I found about Antarctica was there was allegedly an underground tunnel system there. So this kind of plays into, I guess, a little bit of the Hollow Earth stuff, or maybe just, underground caverns or whatever. But allegedly, these tunnels ran from Antarctica all the way up through Africa and into Europe.
So that would mean that these tunnels would have to go underneath the ocean, of course.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, okay.
Going all the way from Antarctica to Africa up through Europe. So, as crazy as that sounds,
That were like the mole people live. I mean,
yeah. I mean, apparently, they were like actual, like natural, like cavern systems, and
yeah,
it's
I mean,
crazy.
I can see that there can be natural caverns, but for them to go for that far, I mean, that's thousands of miles.
So yeah, and it would have had to have been like something that maybe like an ancient like civilization was using, because I mean there have been discoveries of underground caverns and underground cities, like in Turkey.
Yeah.
That dude found like not too long ago. Like I think that was within like the last decade. Some dude found like a straight up, completely underground city by like digging in through his wall. Like he was, I think, like redoing his house or whatever, and he fucking found like an entrance to like a whole underground like cavern. Now it wasn't quite the length of half the fucking world like this other one allegedly
Right.
is, but
Where the hell
I
is he
mean,
living that he knocks down a wall and he ends up stepping into Narnia? Like what?
Yeah, right.
Where is this guy living?
Turkey.
Yeah,
so
what is he living in, like a duplex? Like, yeah, I mean, I can knock down this wall here and I'm going to hit dirt. I can knock out the wall upstairs. I'm just going to be outside. Like, I don't understand the structure of this house where dude just decides to sledgehammer down a wall and some drywall and shit, maybe some brick. And all of a sudden,
yeah,
oh shit, there's a cave. That's like Land of the Lost shit right there.
I don't think that they have quite the
infrastructure.
The I think their laws on zoning are very different than ours
in Turkey.
Yeah.
You live in cave.
Yeah, it was probably like right next to a cave or some shit. But so a lot of the issues that people have with the Nazis having built bases in Antarctica is like how were they able to get supplies and shit up there? Like they would have had to have, it would have been a huge stress on the Navy to like move people and supplies and build all that shit like by Germany all the way down into Antarctica, and the time frame that they were doing this again, like I believe it's 38 and 39. So World War II started in late 39. I think that they left Antarctica officially at the beginning of 39, and then World War II started like towards the end of 39. So within that same year. So for them to have built bases and maintain them would have been, difficult for anyone at that time, much less a country that's in the middle of a war.
Right.
What could explain how they were able to do that is, maybe they had like trains that they were able to take all the way from, Europe through like the underground and pop up in Antarctica. Could have been a much easier way to move supplies. And
it's a long train ride.
Yeah, I mean they could have developed that kind of technology. They had they were developing all sorts of crazy shit. And it's a widely known fact that they did have several underground bases. I think we were actually talking to someone on our Facebook about that. Like,
so
he's by one of those.
Yeah, so we actually have an international viewer who wants to contribute to some of our content, and he did submit some pictures of a bunch of old Nazi underground shit, and I will get those posted to our Facebook and Twitter for y'all to see. That's pretty cool.
So, yeah, I mean, when you start to consider that, like, I mean, it is still pretty wild and outlandish, but if that was something that existed, it could explain how they were able to maintain their bases, and it could also explain how they were able to smuggle people out, because it is, again, widely known and accepted that several Nazis were able to get out of Germany and get to
safety.
Argentina.
Yeah.
That could be how they did it. Through the underground trains down to Antarctica, from Antarctica up to Argentina. So, yeah. I mean, it's still pretty crazy, but I mean, there were a lot of things that were happening at that time that were crazy, and I think that we definitely don't know a lot of what happened. There's definitely a lot of secrecy. A lot of we have not seen the whole story on that.
So the part that interests me, still regarding World War II, was that apparently when the Enola Gay was making its flight to drop the bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki, that whole time they were followed by Foo Fighters. Have you heard that one?
They're what?
So the Enola Gay, the plane that dropped apparently they were followed by Foo Fighters.
Absolutely. So and what's crazy about the Foo Fighters is that we still don't know what those were.
Yeah, nobody knows what the fuck the Foo Fighters are. They're these weird little like mini UFOs,
balls of light. Yeah,
they're mini UFOs.
And they never attacked. They just followed.
Foo Fighters never attack. I've never seen a single story or never heard of a story of a Foo Fighter being aggressive. They're more like advanced.
It was like a drone. Yeah, exactly.
Have you heard this? Apparently, because I'm in Orange County, used to be in Orange County, but apparently off the Orange County coast, between us and Catalina, there's a lot of underwater caves and whatnot, and apparently there's a lot of Foo Fighter activity, like in the waters off the coast. I've heard stories of people doing like underwater sonar and finding what looks like tubes where they launch out of. I'll look into that one. I remember seeing it on a show years ago. But yeah, there'd be some weird shit off our coast.
Yeah, I mean, like there was that footage that ATIP released fairly recently of those UFOs that the Air Force caught off the coast of California from a few years back, and they were freaking out because they had no idea what they were.
And my favorite UFO thing from World War II being Battle Los Angeles. I'm sure you've heard of that one.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Not the disappointing guilty pleasure movie, but apparently over Los Angeles.
Loved that movie.
I wanted to love
it more.
It
twice in theaters.
I wanted to love it more.
It's so fun.
It is a guilty pleasure movie. I just really wanted to like it more. Cool concept, cool premise. It could have benefited with a sequel. I wanted to see more of the aliens and not Michelle Rodriguez and Semper Fi, hoorah! It's like, all right, guys, just dial it back. I get it. You're Marines, Mr. David Eckhart, whatever his name is, the guy that vanished from Hollywood.
Aaron Eckhart.
Yeah, Aaron Eckhart. But yeah, so apparently back, I think it was the 40s, over Los Angeles, there were some UFOs, and so much so that the military actually responded, and there's this whole fight that took place in Los Angeles with firing all these things up into the air at who knows what. And so
because it didn't do anything.
It did nothing.
Like they weren't hitting anything. Yeah. So
could be swamp gas refracting light from Venus, or it could have been a UFO.
Weather balloon. Right.
It's always a weather balloon. Going back for the weather balloon thing, for any flat earther out there, my challenge still stands. If you wish to see the curvature of the Earth, I will crowdfund a weather balloon, a lawn chair, and a warm blanket, and you can float up there and see it for yourself, and you can figure out your own way down. I haven't figured out the whole logistics of it yet, but don't take our word for it. You can see it yourself. Anyway, so we've been going for about 45 minutes. We've got about 15 more minutes here. What should we talk about?
So we sent some people to Antarctica after the war. I think we may have touched briefly on it in a couple of episodes in the past, and I think I may have mentioned this a little bit earlier in this episode, but I believe it was 1946, Operation High Jump. We sent Admiral Richard Byrd to Antarctica, and we'd actually sent him before. We sent him directly after the Nazis had left in 1939. We went there in 1939 with Richard Byrd to basically do a flyover and see hey, were there any bases or whatever.
Right.
So we go back in 1946 with a crew of 13 naval ships, 6 helicopters, 6 flying boats, 2 seaplane tenders, 15 other aircraft, and about 4,000 personnel.
It was like a fleet.
Yeah. So the official story is that we're going there to test equipment, to test tactics, because we believe that the next big battle is going to be against the Soviets. Now, if that's the official narrative, if that were true, if that was something we wanted to do, test our equipment, test tactics and all that stuff, are we really gonna? Exactly. Are we really going to go down all the fucking way to Antarctica, when Alaska or even Canada are right there?
Yeah.
That sounds a bit silly. So likely, what they were doing was going to see if there had been any Nazis that were able to escape and head up there. Maybe they're looking for more bases or anything like that.
Well, maybe just to be kind of on the mundane side, maybe the reason why we didn't go to Alaska is because it would have been so close to Russian waters that the Russians could have tracked what we were doing. And maybe the
True.
U.S. figured, hey, let's go to where the Russians aren't, Antarctica.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that could very well be it. Or Nazis in space. I mean, who's to say which one really happened?
Right.
But that seems like a lot of personnel.
Yeah. To like test like equipment and shit. Like, yeah, it's a lot.
Yeah.
So there are theories that we had actually found the entrance to the Hollow Earth there, and I think that's going to be an episode in and of itself that we got to do at some point.
It'll be the Land of the Lost episode.
Yeah, because that's allegedly one of the things that the Nazis were looking for, the entrance to the Hollow Earth, which they believed was located in Antarctica. So one of the stories out there is that Admiral Byrd actually found this thing and went down into it, and met some of these people.
Blue people?
I've seen, yeah, the blue people, the
avatars,
all these, yeah, right. There's some interesting pictures that you can find online. I believe it's called Agartha. Is what the land is called.
I'm gonna look it up right now.
But there's some pretty interesting diagrams out there on it. It's some pretty wild shit. So it's Agharta. Let me see if I could send this to you real quick.
Let's see here. I want to look up some images here. Oh, that's the thing.
Did you find it?
Yep, that's the thing. So within our world is Agartha.
Yeah.
Yep, that's definitely the Land of the Lost.
Right.
Remember that show? I used to love that show. Not the old one, but like the 90s one.
Nickelodeon one. Yeah, absolutely. Stink. The best character.
Right? Oh, man. You know the brother and sister eventually started fucking each other because...
Oh, totally.
Man,
yeah.
They were teenagers at that point, and their options weren't...
Right.
They didn't have a whole lot of options.
So, there's actually been some developments in Antarctica fairly recently, like within the past 20, 30 years. I believe in the 90s, the Russians discovered an underground or a subterranean lake that they ended up naming Lake Vostok, which I believe they named after a base. Like the Russians had a base there, and the base was called Vostok, so they named the lake after it.
Mm-hmm.
And this lake is about 4,000 meters under the ice, and if you've been paying attention to any of the news that has been coming out of Antarctica the past few years, like anytime that they're talking about drilling into a lake and like finding like subterranean life forms, typically what they're talking about is Lake Vostok. I've seen something where they found like 4,000 types of species like in that fucking lake. And it's all like, like bacterias and shit like that. And all like weird, creepy shit. Cause like, obviously if something gets out of there, and I'm not talking like, like an alien or any like ancient shit like that, but like maybe an ancient virus, like that kind of shit could wreak havoc on us because we probably don't have
Like the immunity.
Exactly. Like we've
Absolutely.
evolved past that, so that could be that's like one of the things that a lot of people are worried about. But
So I'm looking at this map here, and it looks like. Well, let me do a screen share really quick. Screen share, application window, boop, and share. Come on, there we go. So it looks like here we have height of atmosphere 200 miles, Kentucky Mammoth Cave. So looks like there's an entrance in Kentucky. There's an entrance in Brazil. The Guasu Falls. Let's see here. We have the Darrow Caves. Center of gravity is 400 miles down. Interesting. Looks like the Pyramid of Giza has an entrance in it. Mount Impomeo in Italy has an entrance. Looks like there's a lot of ways in. Why doesn't anybody just walk in?
right.
I mean, if I found out, hey, Steve, Adrian, pals, go and explore this cave over here. It could lead you to the center of the earth, Agartha, land of the lost. I mean, I'd be down. I'll make some sandwiches.
Yeah, we could maybe that could be a thing that we crowdfund. Our expedition to the center of the earth.
Crowdfund an expedition to the center of the earth. We can find some crackpot scientists to design us a some sort of giant drill machine that we can pilot ourselves. We could sit and drill our way down to the technodrome. I mean, it's kind of neat.
Dude, so there was a president that was super interested in that, like the whole Hollow Earth thing, and he actually was trying to fund expeditions there. Needless to say, he served one term.
All right.
Fuck. What was his name? I'm trying to look it up real quick.
Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, it was John Quincy Adams.
Okay. Oh, so that was a long time ago.
Yeah. So,
wasn't he the third president?
Yeah.
Was he the second president?
Let's see.
No, I think he was the third president. John
Sixth
president. Okay.
Number 6.
Number
yeah.
6.
So, dude, it's been a long time since we've been in school.
All I need to know for my job is fractions and ratios.
Yeah, right. So yeah, Lake Vostok seems to be where all the activity's happening right now. But another interesting thing that I found was on one of the sides of the lake, a huge magnetic anomaly was like found as they were doing scans. And what this was reading was that there was a ton of metal there, like almost like basically what you would read if you were scanning like a city. So that was something that was gaining a lot of interest, because a lot of people were like, did you guys just find a fucking flash frozen city like there, like an ancient city or something? And you know, that kind of got buried under the rug since when a lot of people started asking a lot of questions. So I couldn't find a whole lot about that, but that's a little interesting, because like what could it be that's there? I mean, like maybe like minerals or some shit like that, but another cool thing, or I guess maybe not so cool, because eventually it's probably going to be a bad thing, but the western part of Antarctica is actually the ice is melting much faster than the eastern part. Reason for that is there are several volcanoes in Antarctica. Apparently, this actually has like the biggest like volcanic range like in the world. Is located in Antarctica. Several of them are located on the western side of the continent. and they've been going off, and apparently it's causing the ice to melt faster on that side. So eventually, it's not going to have all the weight of the ice. It's going to be melting. It's going to go into the ocean. Tides are going to rise and all that, but we might get a better look at what is on the or I guess what's beneath the ice, I should say. Whether that's like ancient cities, alien craft, Nazi craft,
what if it's like the X-Men and there's a, oh god, what's that area called in the Marvel universe that
Savage Land?
The Savage Land, yes.
Yeah.
Just
so
run by
I mean,
pterodactyl man.
Yeah. I mean, there are some theories that there's areas like that in Antarctica. Again, with the whole Richard Byrd thing, like allegedly that's some of the stuff that he saw on his flyover. He saw like vegetation and stuff like that.
Well, I know from history throughout the ages, obviously the terrains change, the biospheres change and whatnot, and apparently Antarctica at one point used to be tropical. It used to be.
Yeah. So that's definitely something that I came across. The theory is that the poles shifted, and actually, I shouldn't say theory because that's something that I think that we know has actually happened. The poles have shifted, and continents have moved and stuff like that. What they think happened, and I think Einstein actually bought into this theory, was North America was initially covered in ice. That ended up melting, and ended up causing like one of the great floods. Probably the last great flood that we had was because of the ice on North America melting. That caused the poles to shift and ended up pushing Antarctica down to the southern hemisphere where it is now, where it ended up freezing, and obviously like flash freezing all the vegetation, maybe the ancient civilizations. Who knows? That could be Atlantis. I know there's some theories of that.
We need to do an Atlantis episode.
Oh, absolutely.
That needs to happen at some point.
Anyways,
what's that?
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like one of like the 6 topics that we could jump off from this episode.
Oh yeah. Anyways,
but yeah, we've definitely been going over like an hour at this point.
Yeah. So hold on. Let's take a moment to pay homage to our
sponsors,
corporate overlords. Yes. So hold on. Let me get.
Yes. So again, guys, and thank you guys for listening to the episode. We do want to take a moment to talk about our sponsors, Infinite CBD.
Yes.
We know that a lot of you guys have actually been using this stuff because
we've been,
yeah, exactly. Right. So we're really stoked because we didn't know that it would happen this quickly.
Yeah, for the 3 people who will watch this, thank you.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Hopefully it worked out for you guys.
Yeah, because it's working for us. We love it. We're about to get hooked up with a bunch more product to try out. So we'll let you guys know how that works.
So true story. When everybody was trying to wave their dicks around during the San Diego trip, I was putting a couple headlocks and whatnot because it's jujitsu, and my neck hurt. I don't know what happened, but somebody fucked up my neck. I think it was Dan. I know it was Dan because Dan likes to do his. It's like, all right, Dan, that's cool. I can't hit you, but this is cool. And dude, something like right here, it was really swollen. It really hurt. I couldn't really cock my head or anything. I put some of the freezing point cream on this. Swelling went down within a day, and it doesn't hurt anymore. That is fact. I'm going to put some more on before I go to bed tonight, and hopefully it'll be better by tomorrow.
Yeah,
that shit works.
The freezing point cream is amazing. If you guys are going to try anything, I highly recommend that stuff. Rub it on your joints, any soreness that you guys have. It'll clear that shit right up for you. Another thing that's awesome is these the asteroid gummies. I love those things. Steve hasn't tried them yet, but we're going to get some over to him. And I'm sure he's going to love them as well. Like those things are awesome.
So let's talk about the one thing, rather ambiguously, the CBD lube. Boys, if you want to add another 30 to 45 minutes to your session, if you will, that CBD lube, woo-wee, that'll do something. I mean,
yeah.
That'll do something.
I'm gonna have to make sure to beat off with some of that stuff at some point this weekend. I still haven't used it quite yet.
Give us a full report.
Yeah, right. And like we said earlier, I've been traditionally a dry guy, but I'm open. It's 2019. I'm open to trying new things.
I mean, using lotion and stuff, that's so teenager. Like when you're older, it's like, dude, I don't need to do this crap anymore. I mean, you learn the pressures. But anyways,
grips. So yes, guys, they've got a ton of great products. Check them out, guys. The website's infinitecbd.com. Our promo code to get you 10% off is going to be Tyde10. So that's TYDE10. Be sure to use that. It'll knock off 10% of your order. At least cover the shipping for you.
10% is 10%. I mean, hell, if you don't have to pay for shipping, you can put that towards gas or a warm meal. I mean, hell, 10% is 10%. I'll take it. I'm a cheapskate. I'm a sucker for deals. What else can we talk about really quick? Let's close it out. Please join us on Facebook. We're going to get some pictures up. Hopefully soon. I need to talk to our guy in the UK. He already sent the pictures. I just need to get around to posting the pictures. It's been a really hectic week. I'm in a bit of a funk right now. I'm not happy. Everything's hitting the fan. But we're definitely going to do some more of that. I did finish uploading all of the videos from the Georgia Air Force Base. Definitely want to go there again. I do have some people here that would like to join me because I would like to go again with somebody, especially in the hospital, because I do most of this crap by myself, and this hospital was very scary. I was, I will openly admit this, I was a little nervous going into this, and the fact that I was trying to live stream it and the receiver on my phone is fucked up, so there's no audio. So it was, and there was no signal out there, so I wanted to live stream this whole thing, and it would have been like a 3-4 hour live stream because I was there for that long. It's just acres and acres and acres and acres of just abandoned neighborhood. There's entire neighborhoods just completely abandoned. All the homes are there. There's an abandoned country club, like not a country club, but like a golf course. That was pretty neat. It could have,
right, yeah.
But the hospital, holy shit. Was that something? And with any hospital, there's got to be a morgue, and I would love to crawl around there and try to find the morgue.
So yeah, guys, definitely check out our Facebook. Check out the videos that we just uploaded of the base. Check us out on Twitter at TV Pals. You can reach out to us on any of these platforms if you guys have any ideas or whatever for any adventures. Earlier today, we were actually talking about potentially doing a camping trip near Area 51.
Yes.
So that may be in the cards at some point.
So you know what I like to do, Adrian? Because not a lot of people have taken my new channel's direction yet, or now our channel. Not a lot of people have taken to the channel yet, which is fine. Whatever. I was known in the community as doing this one thing and kind of giving birth to a lot of things that kind of grew legs and ran off on their own. Yeah, that's cool. But I would really like to get to 1,000 subs. So if we can get to 1,000 subs, then Adrian and I will go and do the Area 51 weekend and go to Mount Tikaboo, rent a 4x4, drive out there, maybe catch some of the Area 51 workers as they're either coming or going on the Area 51 bus. When I went out there last time, this bus came speeding right by me. I mean, I don't know what kind of horsepower they put in this fucking bus, considering that they have to go up the mountain to get to where they need to go. This bus hauls ass. Like, have you seen any videos about the employee bus, Adrian, for Area 51?
No.
This thing is a fucking monster. It looks like just an old junky bus, but whatever rocket fuel engine that they put in there, this thing is just cranking like 95 down the highway.
Whatever Bob Lazar like built for them.
Yeah, pretty much. It is unimaginably fast for a bus.
Right.
And I've done some research, and I know where they pick up the employees. In fact, where I stopped to pick up gas on my way back, like not this past November, but the November prior, I got gas pretty close to where that bus likes to pick up and drop off the employees. So I would love to do a like an Area 51 exploratory thing. And there's a lot of abandoned places and mines all around that area. There's a channel called Adventures with Christian, who is a dude who has like a Wrangler, and he's just constantly driving around that whole area, just recording things and going into caves and abandoned places. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Nice.
And I would love to hopefully see something again, because again, when I was just driving back from Rachel, I did see something huge coming from the direction of Area 51. Not saying it was a UFO, but the shape of it was really fucking weird. And I know this thing was massive, considering I was about maybe 35 miles away from where the base proper would be. And this thing peaked right above the mountains, and it looked like a weirdly shaped J. It looked kind of like this. Just picture three lights just forming this kind of J shape. Again, very weird. I was expecting to see like, oh, there's like the V, there's the saucer, there's the orb, there's the oval, there's the fucking trapezoid. But no, this was a weird shape. But Adrian and I would love to do that. Maybe we can even stop and spend the night at Area 50, not Area 51, at the Little Alien. We can have some of their diarrhea food.
Yeah.
And
do a live podcast from there.
Yeah. Actually, they're pretty. They don't like people recording inside, but I have a way to do it without them noticing. Spyglasses, baby. So if we can get to 1,000 subs, that'll be like what we do once we hit 1,000 subs. Is that Adrian and I will go and have an Area 51 weekend. And what I would like to do is maybe the first day we stay at the Luxor, because that is Luxor or Mandalay, because those two hotels are closest to the employee entrance for oh god, what's the help me? What's the jet's called? Janus. That is those are the two closest hotels to the Janus terminal, which are the planes that they use to fly out to Area 51. If you've ever been to Vegas, they don't hide them. They're there. But apparently the security at this particular entrance, they're really secretive. They don't like being filmed. They're very weary towards people walking by. Again, I have a spy camera. Revealing my secrets now on the YouTubes. I'm going to probably get a knock on my door like any minute now. So, I mean, that'd be cool, because I've been thinking about it. Just you and me will get a night, or we'll get a room at Luxor or Mandalay right there, and we can show, hopefully it would be the eastern facing wall, because you have the strip, then you have the hotels here, and then east of that would be the airport. So, and you can see the plane. They're all there. You can drive by. They don't hide them. But maybe show off a little bit of that. Maybe go say hello to one of the people behind the gate, and then make the really long and lonely drive to Area 51. And God damn it, Aaron, it is such a long, lonely drive. I mean, from Orange County, it'd be about a 6-hour drive. So it'd be like on par with driving from here to San Francisco, which I've made that drive too.
Okay.
Also a long drive. But there's a point where there's literally nothing. You're just driving, and there's nothing. Driving, and there's just nothing out there for many, many, many miles. And you might see like a couple like scattered remains, and then out of nowhere, there's like this tiny little town where you can gas up, and there's the UFO museum that's there, which was actually open when I went last time, and it was really neat. The proprietor there was really cool. Bought some alien tequila here. Where's my alien tequila? There we go. Pretty good tequila. Little alien bottle. Yeah. We can show the Groom Lake Road entrance to Area 51 and the back gate to Area 51, which is a little bit more interesting because there's actually a guard post there. I will upload that onto this channel. It's uploaded on our original channel, but I'll get that uploaded. I think that's a fun little video. I was trying to be a smartass and driving up to Area 51 with my Uber stickers on just to see what would happen. They didn't give me the time of day. I tried, man. I tried. But Tikaboo is the place where you can now go to actually see the base proper. You used to be able to get a lot closer to it, but I guess the government bought out that land.
Oh, yeah.
And, yeah, so it's pushed back now. So to get to Tikaboo, you definitely need a four-wheeler. My little car can't do it. I'm pretty sure your car can't do it either. So definitely need like a four-wheeler, and then we can go and park, and we can actually camp out there.
Yeah.
Because it's in the middle of nowhere. It's not designated camping ground per se, but I think it's just open land, I guess. And then it's a really shitty hike up to the actual summit. And up there's a weather station with a lot of cameras for some reason. Why are there a lot of cameras? But from there, I think the base is about 20-ish miles away, so it's visible, and we get binoculars, which I do have. And I think that'll be cool. So if we can get to 1,000 subs, we will do a whole weekend live stream of that, and let's get there. We need about 175 more to get to 1,000. So if we can do that, that'd be fantastic. Anyways, it's getting late. I need to pee, and yeah, I really need to pee. So
and I need to get to bed.
Yeah, so Adrian closes up.
All right, guys. Well, thanks for joining us. I've been Adrian. That has been Steve, and we have been the Tyde podcast. So thanks for joining us, and we'll see you guys soon.
All right, later.